In the bustling town of Lagos, Nigeria, there lived a woman named Amina. Her story was one of beauty, love, loss, and ultimately freedom. But soon, it would reveal the darker side of insecurity and control. Yet through it all, Amina found the strength to rediscover herself and break free. Amina was the kind of woman who made heads turn. Her dark, radiant skin shimmered under the sun, and her eyes gleamed with life, like the sparkles of a river flowing through lush green fields. But Amina's true magic wasn't just in her appearance. It was in her strength. She was bold, free, and confident, aware of her worth but never letting it consume her. Then one day Amina met Kofi. Kofi was a man who lived in the shadows. He wasn't poor, but he wasn't rich either. He lived a humble life, working hard as an architect in Lagos, though he was often overlooked by those around him. He had always been the nice guy, the dependable one, but also the quiet one. But when he met Amina, everything changed. From the very first moment Kofi laid eyes on Amina, he was captivated. She wasn't just beautiful, she was alive. Her smile, the way she carried herself, it all drew him in, and for the first time, Kofi felt that maybe he deserved someone like her. Kofi wasn't used to being admired by women. But Amina changed that. Determined to win her heart, Kofi began to show her his affection in the most sincere ways. He would send her thoughtful messages whenever they spoke. "Amina, you are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen," he would say. First, Amina was cautious. Slowly, her heart softened. She found herself smiling more, laughing more, and eventually falling for him. Months passed, and Kofi proposed. Amina, with her heart full of love and hope for the future, said yes. Her dream life was turned into a nightmare. At the start of their marriage, everything felt perfect. Kofi was attentive, kind, and made Amina feel like the most special woman in the world. But then, little by little, things began to change. One evening, as Amina was getting ready for a night out, Kofi looked at her and said, "Amina, you don't need all that makeup. You're naturally beautiful. Why cover it up?" Amina hesitated as she looked at herself in the mirror. She loved makeup, not because she needed it, but because it made her feel confident. But Kofi's voice was calm, and his words seemed like a compliment. "You think so?" Amina asked, uncertain. "I know so," Kofi replied with a smile. That night, she left the house with no makeup. She thought it would please Kofi, but deep down, she began questioning herself. Kofi's remarks didn't stop there. It wasn't long before he began talking about her hair. "Why wear those weaves? I love your natural hair. Let it breathe." Amina had always loved experimenting with her hair. Sometimes short, sometimes long, sometimes curly or straight. Next came the comments about her clothes. "Amina, you're a married woman now. Those dresses are too tight. Let me buy you something more modest." When Kofi handed her the first dress, a baggy, oversized gown, Amina was shocked. "Kofi, this is too big. I can't wear this." Kofi smiled gently. "Trust me, this will make you more comfortable. Decent. I don't want other men looking at my wife." Amina hesitated, but she didn't want to upset Kofi, so she wore the oversized dress. Soon after, Kofi started commenting on Amina's eating habits. "You need to eat more," he would say, as he piled more food on her plate. "Who wants a skinny wife anyway?" At first, Amina laughed it off, but soon the weight began to pile on. Her clothes became tighter, and she no longer recognized the woman in the mirror. But there was something deeper happening. Kofi, the man who once adored her, never took her out anymore. At first, the excuses were simple. "It's too dangerous out there," or "There are too many men who would look at another man's wife." Kofi barely introduced Amina at family gatherings, at business events. But when he saw other women who looked just like Amina used to, he would laugh at their jokes, compliment their beauty, their style, their hair. But he never did that for her. One evening, as they sat together in bed, Amina asked the question that Kofi, "Do you still find me attractive?" Kofi scoffed. "Only insecure women ask questions like that." Amina felt the sting of his words tell me I was beautiful. Kofi's response was cold. You are still beautiful. In that moment, Amina realized the truth. Despite the pain Amina endured, she tried to tell herself that things would change when Kofi's childhood friend, Tund, invited them to his wedding at a luxurious resort outside the city. It was supposed to be an extravagant celebration, a chance for everyone to show off their wealth and elegance. Amina wanted to look her best, but Kofi had other ideas. A few days before the wedding, Amina mentioned wanting to buy a dress for the event. I have plenty of dresses, Kofi said, but none are appropriate for a wedding like this. Without asking her opinion, Kofi handed her a dress. It was another baggy, shapeless gown. You'll look perfect in this, he said. Amina's heart sank. On the wedding day, as Amina walked into the venue, she saw women in stunning gowns, their hair styled to perfection, their makeup flawless. The men looked sharp in their suits. Amina felt invisible in her oversized gown, sitting alone in a corner while Kofi mingled and laughed with his friends. It was then that she saw him, a man from her past. Tariq, a university friend who had always admired her. When he saw her, his face lit up in surprise. Amina. Is that really you? Amina smiled weakly. Yes, it's me, she said, her voice cracking. Tariq looked her up and down, his face falling in disbelief. What happened to you? You used to be the most confident woman I knew. You were always so sure of yourself. What changed? Just as they began talking, Kofi appeared. His face twisted with jealousy and anger. What's going on here? He snapped, stepping between them. Even in your state, you still want men's attention. Amina froze. Relax, man. We were just talking, Tariq said. Amina's heart broke. She couldn't take it anymore. She turned and walked out of the wedding, humiliated and broken. That night, Amina made a decision. She couldn't live like this anymore. As she sat in her hotel room, she opened her old Facebook account, the one Kofi had convinced her to abandon years ago. There she saw photos of herself, radiant, confident and full of life. Tears filled her eyes. The next morning, Amina packed her bags. When Kofi came home and saw her suitcase, his face twisted with rage. So, you're finally leaving. Amina stood tall, her voice steady. Yes, I want to be admired, just like you admire other women, while turning your own wife into a shadow. Kofi laughed bitterly. You'll regret this. Amina didn't need him, she just needed him to sign the divorce papers. 6 months later, Amina had transformed herself. She worked out, ate healthy, and rediscovered her confidence. She found a new job, met new people, and began living again. And when the time came to sign the divorce papers, she did so with pride. When Kofi saw her in the lawyer's office, his jaw dropped. He immediately regretted his actions. Amina, I was just scared of other men seeing your beauty, he pleaded. Amina smiled coldly. Sign the papers, Kofi. And go to hell. With that, Amina was free. She had rediscovered her true self, and nothing would ever take that from her again.